Hey folks, Gary here. Hey, we've been looking at the second chapter of Acts for the last little bit, asking a question: is God still doing it? Absolutely, God is still doing it. And so, what takes place in the second chapter of Acts is the Holy Spirit's poured out upon the disciples. They start to be used by the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's ministering to them, but also through them to others. And because of that, the church just explodes almost overnight, which is really quite cool. And so today we're looking at verses 22 down to 31. Let's see what takes place here. It says this: People of Israel, listen. So this is Peter. Peter's become an evangelist. The Holy Spirit's using him to do a bunch of teaching. So people of Israel, listen. God publicly endorsed Jesus the Nazarene by doing powerful miracles and wonders and signs through him, as you well know. It was well known in the area. But God knew what would happen, and his prearranged plan was carried out when Jesus was betrayed with the help of lawless Gentiles. You nailed him to a cross and killed him, but God released him from the horrors of death and raised him back to life, for death could not keep him in its grip. So God already knew this was going to happen. Not only did God know this was going to happen, God prearranged it for it to happen. You know, sometimes we can go through a whole lot of crap in our life, and we go through that crap because, well, it's a sinful world and people do sinful things. But here's the thing: God's no fool. It doesn't take God by surprise. And we can have all sorts of questions of why and all that kind of stuff. Trust this. God has a plan, and his plan is glorious. It's not for your destruction. It's actually to bless you and put you in an incredibly great place later on. You might not see it because the next 24 hours might look dark, or 48, or whatever it is. God sees the whole plan. It's got something fantastic for you. But let's keep on. Let's keep on reading, because this was prearranged, and it's prearranged, and Peter tells why it's prearranged. Verse 25, or how he knows. Verse 25, King David said this about him: I see that the Lord is always with me. I will not be shaken, for he is right beside me. No wonder my heart is glad, and my tongue shouts his praises. My body rests in hope, for you will not leave my soul among the dead, or allow your Holy One to rot in the grave. You have shown me the way of life. You will fill me with joy of your presence. Dear brothers, think about this. You can be sure that the patriarch David was not referring to himself, for he died and was buried, and his tomb is still here among us. But he was a prophet, and he knew God had promised with an oath that one of David's own descendants would sit on the throne. David was looking into the future and speaking of the Messiah's resurrection. He was saying that God would not leave him among the dead or allow his body to rot in the grave. In other words, David is prophesying about what is going to take place, because God knew all this was going to happen. And it was prearranged by God for your salvation and my salvation, and for God to be glorified. So in the same way, man, you don't know what your life is going to be about. You have no idea. But God knows what it's going to be about. And God is setting things in motion to have that take place. But what is God looking for? Well, the same thing as the apostles and disciples here. He's simply looking for people who are willing to be used by him. Why? So that God can pour out his love to those around you, and those around you can be saved and come to know who he is. And it may suck what you're going through, but God has a purpose for it. So trust him, and trust he'll never leave you and never abandon you. He's not going to let you rot. He's got a great plan for your life.